Why did you wear that old dress? Rebecca's words made me stop drinking my lemonade. I had just arrived at Daniel's apartment 15 minutes ago. I thought we were going to have a nice talk. But Rebecca, my son's girlfriend, was looking at me like I had done something wrong. That dress looks like it came from a yard sale, she said. Her voice was mean. I looked down at my blue dress. I bought it at Target for $80. I had worn it to many nice events. But now, sitting in this fancy apartment, I felt bad about it. My dress is fine for nice parties, I said. I tried to keep my voice calm, even though I felt upset. Rebecca laughed. It was not a nice laugh.
Fine?
Maybe 4. I don't know what kind of parties you go to. She moved her hand around, pointing at expensive things in the room. But when you meet our friends, rich business people, and important families, what you wear matters. People will see you and think things. The apartment suddenly felt cold. Through the big windows, I could see the nice neighborhood with perfect yards. My dress cost $80 from Target. I wore it to work meetings and dinners many times. Now it felt like I was wearing the wrong costume. This dress is good for fancy times, I said again. Rebecca leaned back in her chair. Good? Maybe 4. Well, I don't know. But when you're with our group, people who run big companies and old rich families, how you look is important. First times meeting people matter, you know? Daniel came in from the kitchen carrying plates. Rebecca, Mom's dress looks nice. Can we please just eat? I'm not trying to be mean, Rebecca said, but her voice sounded mean anyway. I understand not everyone has money for expensive clothes. But couldn't you have borrowed something? Ask Daniel to help you pick better clothes? The word, borrowed, hung in the air like smoke. For 25 years, I worked as a doctor. I had helped thousands of people get better. But Rebecca thought I was poor and needed help. Maybe you should try to know me instead of looking at my clothes, I said carefully. Rebecca's eyes got bright. But they're connected, right? What someone wears tells you about them. Their life. Their money. How important they are. She drank more wine. The wine made her brave and mean. Daniel told me you work at a hospital. Some kind of helper job. Those words hurt like someone had pushed me. Daniel had kept my real job secret because I asked him to. Too many years of people treating doctors differently made me want to stay quiet about my work. But Rebecca thinking I had a small job showed how mean she was. Something like that, I said quietly. Well, at least it's a steady job, Rebecca said like she was being nice. Though I bet the money isn't much. Hospital workers don't make much. She pointed around the room at expensive art and fancy glasses. This is what real success looks like, Margaret. Maybe I can give you advice about money. Help you save for when you get old. Daniel's face turned white. His hands squeezed together. He started to talk, but Rebecca kept going. She talked like she was better than everyone. Actually, you know what? I'll pay for the wedding. All of it. She reached over and patted my hand like I was a child. You don't need to worry about spending money you don't have. The room got very quiet except for a clock ticking. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. He was embarrassed. His nice dinner was ruined. Rebecca sat there, red from wine, looking happy. She waited for me to say thank you for her nice offer. But I felt something cold and sharp in my chest. Not anger, that was too hot. This was something else. Recognition. The same feeling I got when I saw test results that showed what was really wrong with the patient. That's very nice of you, I said quietly. Daniel suddenly pushed back from the table. His chair made a loud scraping sound. Rebecca, I think you should go home now. Rebecca blinked. Her brain was foggy from wine.
What?
But we haven't even dash. Now, Daniel said. That one word was strong enough to cut through her confusion. You drank too much wine, and you're being really rude to my mother, Daniel said. Rebecca's face showed confusion, then anger. Then she finally agreed like a child who got caught doing something bad. Fine, if that's what you want. She stood up, wobbling a little, and grabbed her jacket. But honestly, Daniel, someone had to say it. We can't pretend these differences don't matter. Daniel walked her to the door. I heard them whispering. Her making excuses. Him saying sorry for her. The door closed with a click. The house became very quiet. When Daniel came back, his shoulders were down. He looked tired. The strong businessman who talked in meetings was now just a son stuck between two people he cared about. "Mom, I'm so sorry," Daniel said as he sat back down. He couldn't look at me. Rebecca isn't usually like this. The wine, stress from work, it makes her act bad. I watched him touch his phone nervously. How many times had I seen patients' family members do the same thing? Touching wedding rings when they were defending someone who did wrong. Love fighting with the truth. "Daniel," I waited for him to look up. "Did you ever tell her about my work?" He looked confused. "Your work? No, of course not. You asked me years ago not to tell anyone. Remember? After Aunt Linda tried to get you to help her with her parking tickets." I remembered. My sister cornering me at a family party, whispering and sliding papers across the table. People thinking my job was just to help family members had ruined many relationships over the years. "So, she doesn't know what I do?" "I told her you work at the hospital, some kind of staff job," Daniel said, looking at his hands again. She didn't seem to care about the details. Of course she didn't. Rebecca's world was simple. Rich people at the top. Everyone else was less important. A hospital worker was almost invisible to her. "Good," I said quietly. "Please keep it that way." Something in my voice made him look up fast. "Mom, you're not mad at me for not defending you more, are you?" "Because I wanted to. But sometimes it's easier to just let her." "I'm not mad at you," I said softly. How could I explain that I wasn't worried about hurt feelings? I was worried about something bigger. In 25 years of being a doctor, I learned to spot dangerous behavior. Rebecca's mean words tonight showed patterns that scared me. Daniel reached across the table and took my hand. "She's really not a bad person, Mom. She comes from this world where everything is about status and who's better than who. Sometimes she forgets that not everyone thinks that way." I squeezed his fingers. "You don't need to explain her to me. But I feel like I do because I love her." "These things take time," I said. "Getting to know someone. Understanding who they really are. It's a process." "You'll give her another chance though, right? When she's not drunk and says sorry?" I nodded, though something inside me had already changed. I was now in doctor mode. Watching. Paying attention. "Of course." He smiled for the first time since Rebecca left. "Thank you. I know once you really get to know each other." I squeezed his hand one more time, then let go. "I should go home. I have work early tomorrow." As I got my jacket and keys, I saw him watching me the way he did as a little boy, trying to read my mood from my face. Some habits never go away, even when you grow up. "Drive safe," he said, walking me to the door. "I always do." I kissed his forehead and walked out into the evening. Outside, the perfect neighborhood with perfect streetlights made everything look clean and controlled. My car sat by the street like it didn't belong. Plain but reliable, just like me. At least according to Rebecca. The drive home took me through the city, past tall buildings and into neighborhoods where regular people lived regular lives. Traffic moved smoothly. 45 minutes alone to think. 45 minutes to understand what had just happened. In my 25 years as a doctor, I had met every kind of person. The desperate ones and the smart ones. The truly sorry ones and the ones who never felt bad about anything. I learned to read the small signs. The way someone's jaw tightened when shown proof. The pause before a lie. The special kind of anger that came when privilege was questioned. Rebecca showed classic signs of thinking she was better than everyone. The casual cruelty hidden as helpful advice. Not caring how her words hurt others. Thinking that having money meant she could judge people she thought were below her. I had seen people like her before. They came to the hospital wearing expensive clothes and confident smiles. They spoke to nurses and janitors the same way Rebecca spoke to me tonight. Like being poor or average was a character flaw that meant they could treat you badly. The worst part wasn't the insults. It was what they showed about how she saw Daniel. To Rebecca, he was like a prize from a lower class. Someone whose family needed to be fixed and improved. Her offer to pay for the wedding wasn't kindness. It was a power move. Showing she was in charge through money. I took my exit and drove the familiar curves to my neighborhood. The tree-lined streets felt safe after that fancy apartment. Here, small homes sat next to bigger ones without shame. Here, a person's worth wasn't measured by their clothes. I pulled into my driveway and sat for a moment before turning off the car. The house looked exactly like I left it. Small, clean, simple. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a room full of medical books and family photos. Thomas had planted the roses by the front porch. Their smell carried memories of Saturday mornings spent reading the newspaper together. Inside, I did my evening routine. Jacket in the closet. Keys on the counter. Glass of water from the tap. No fancy glasses needed. In my study, surrounded by medical books and journals, I finally let myself think about what tonight meant. Daniel loved Rebecca. He had asked her to marry him. He planned their future together. He chose to tie his life to hers. Those were facts that couldn't be changed by a mother not liking her. But facts could change. People showed their true selves slowly. Sometimes those revelations changed everything. I wasn't going to interfere with my son's relationship because of one bad evening. That would be wrong and could hurt things worse. But I also wouldn't ignore what I saw. Rebecca's mask had slipped tonight. She showed glimpses of something darker underneath her polish. The smart thing to do, the doctor thing to do, was to watch and take notes. Let time show patterns. Give Rebecca enough rope to either prove I was wrong or show I was completely right. I had learned patience from 25 years of watching patients get better or worse. Some cases developed slowly, each visit adding another piece to the puzzle until the full picture was clear. This would be no different. I settled into my reading chair, the same chair where I had studied medical journals for decades, where I had read bedtime stories to young Daniel, where I had cried when Thomas died and slowly rebuilt my life around being alone and working. Tomorrow would bring new things. Maybe Rebecca would call to say sorry. Her conscience finally working through her hangover. Maybe Daniel would call to talk about the evening, asking for reassurance or advice. Or maybe nothing would happen at all, and life would just continue toward their wedding day. Whatever came, I would be ready. The house settled around me with familiar creaks and sounds. A simple home filled with books and memories and the quiet happiness of a life lived helping others. Outside, the city continued its busy energy. Millions of people chasing their dreams and goals behind carefully built walls. In hospitals across the city, doctors were reviewing charts, preparing for tomorrow's patients, weighing symptoms and test results to help people. The work continued, as it always had, as it always would. And sometimes, not often, but sometimes, justice found ways to happen outside hospitals and courtrooms. In the patient spaces where truth eventually came out from shadows. I closed my eyes and let the day's stress drain away, already planning tomorrow with the careful precision that had helped me throughout my career. Time would tell what kind of person Rebecca really was. The phone's loud ring cut through Saturday morning quiet like a knife. I looked up from my newspaper. My coffee cup was halfway to my mouth. I checked the clock. 10:30 was a strange time for calls. Hello, Margaret. It's Rebecca. Her voice sounded rough. The wine from last night had smoothed away the rough edges before. Listen, I need to say sorry for last night. I drank too much wine and said things that were wrong. I put down my coffee and leaned back in my study chair. Books surrounded me. They had watched 25 years of careful thinking. It's okay, Rebecca. These things happen. Thank you for being so nice about it, she said. Relief flooded her voice, like someone who had worried all night. Daniel was really upset with me after you left. He made it clear that I crossed some lines. Through my window, Saturday morning spread across the neighborhood in comfortable normalness. Neighbors walked dogs. Kids played in yards. Normal people living normal lives without wedding drama. He's protective, I said. Always has been. Yes, well, that's why I'm calling, Rebecca said. Her voice got stronger. The apology cleared her conscience for what came next. I've been thinking about the whole thing, and while I regret how I said it last night, I still have concerns. Something cold settled in my stomach. Which concerns? The dress, Margaret. Look, I know I was harsh about it, but there are going to be very important guests at this wedding. Tech executives, business partners, old rich families. First impressions matter a lot in these groups. I watched a neighbor's dog run through my backyard flowers, patient and focused on something I couldn't see. Animals hunting had their own logic, their own unstoppable path. It's a perfectly nice dress, Rebecca. But that's the thing. Nice isn't good enough here, she said. Her voice took on that patient tone of someone explaining obvious things to a slow child. This is a $150,000 wedding, Margaret. The flowers alone cost more than most people make in weeks. Every detail has to be perfect. $150,000. The number hung in the air like smoke. It showed things about values and what mattered that made my simple home feel like a different universe. I appreciate your concern, I started to say. Here's what I'm thinking, Rebecca interrupted. Her voice warmed up like someone solving problems for dumb people. There's a dress shop downtown. Nothing too expensive, but they have dresses that would be better for the occasion. I could even go with you. Help you pick something. Make sure it fits right. Make sure the color works with the wedding colors. The dog in my yard had frozen perfectly still, every muscle ready to jump. Nature being patient before the final strike. That's very nice, but I'll be wearing the dress I own. Silence stretched across the phone. When Rebecca spoke again, her voice was hard, like someone frustrated that people weren't listening. Margaret, I'm trying to be nice about this, but let me be completely clear. This wedding is important to me, important to my career, my reputation, my family flying in from Boston. I cannot have Daniel's mother looking like she shops at discount stores. It's an $80 dress from Target, but it's good quality, I said calmly. $80? Rebecca laughed, but it wasn't funny. My earrings cost more than that. Look, I'm trying to help you here, but there are limits. If you show up in that dress, you're not getting through those doors. You won't be allowed in. The words landed like a punch. Not a request, not even a demand. An order from someone who had never been told no by people she thought were beneath her. In 25 years as a doctor, I had heard threats delivered with more subtlety and less poison than what Rebecca had just said across my kitchen table on a Saturday morning. The mask hadn't just slipped. It had shattered completely, showing something uglier than I imagined possible. I see, I said. My voice stayed steady despite the anger building in my chest. Thank you for making your position clear. Good. I'm glad we understand each other, Rebecca said. The dress shop on Main Street opens at 10. We could meet there this afternoon if I hung up. The receiver settled into its cradle with a soft click. Then came the deep silence of my study. Medical books stared down from shelves like quiet witnesses to what just happened. Outside, the neighbor's dog had finished its hunt and disappeared, leaving only the flowers swaying in the morning breeze. My hand stayed on the phone for a long moment. I felt the cool plastic against my palm while Rebecca's words echoed in my memory with crystal clarity. You won't be allowed in. The dial tone buzzed for several seconds before I finally lifted my hand from the receiver. The silence that followed felt heavy, weighted with meanings that would have seemed impossible 24 hours earlier. I stood slowly. My joints protested the sudden movement. I walked to my study window. The neighbor's dog had disappeared, but proof of its hunt remained. A few scattered leaves near the flower bushes. Nature's casual brutality displayed against Thomas's carefully kept garden. You won't be allowed in. 3 decades of medical experience had taught me to recognize threats in all their forms. The crude intimidation of angry patients, the sophisticated manipulation of insurance companies, the cold calculation of those who used power without caring about others. Rebecca's ultimatum had elements of all 3 wrapped in the appearance of social niceness. But what struck me most wasn't the threat itself. It was the casual certainty behind it. Rebecca truly believed she had the power to tell me what to do, to exclude me from my own son's wedding based on how much my dress cost. More disturbing still, she assumed I would either obey or stay away in shame. too scared by her wealth and connections to challenge her. I moved through my house slowly, seeing it through new eyes. The simple furniture that Thomas and I chose together. The family photos on tables. The kitchen where we shared 25 years of morning coffee and evening talks. Everything suddenly felt fragile. Like Rebecca's view of the world could somehow poison the spaces where I built my life. In the hallway of my bedroom, I stopped before a photo of Thomas taken 2 years before he died. He wore the look I remembered best. Patient amusement at human foolishness. The look of someone who had seen enough of life to find most drama silly. "What would you think of all this?" I asked his picture quietly, but I already knew. Thomas had an unerring instinct for character, could spot narcissism and cruelty under polished surfaces like a surgeon spotting disease. He would have seen through Rebecca in the first 5 minutes. More importantly, he would have been disappointed in me if I let her win. I went to my bedroom and opened the closet door. There, hanging beside my casual clothes and work scrubs, was the dress in question. Blue cotton, classic style, purchased from Target during a rare shopping trip 2 years ago. It had served me well at nice events, earned compliments from colleagues, looked good in photos at hospital ceremonies. $80. Rebecca's earrings cost more. I lifted the dress from its hanger and held it up to the bedroom window. Looking at it in sunlight, the fabric showed no signs of wear. The fit was still good, the color as rich as the day I bought it. By any reasonable standard, it was perfectly fine for wedding celebrations. But Rebecca didn't use reasonable standards. Her world ran on different rules, ranks of wealth and status that let some people judge others, decide who belonged and who should be kept out. In her universe, I wasn't Daniel's mother deserving respect. I was a problem to be managed, a source of embarrassment to be controlled or removed. I hung the dress back in its place and closed the closet door. The decision forming in my mind felt as inevitable as that neighbor's dog finishing its hunt. Not born from anger, though anger existed. Not driven by hurt pride, though my pride was wounded. This was something else. Recognition that some behaviors needed consequences. Some attitudes demanded correction. For 25 years, I had watched human nature in hospitals with the detached analysis of a scientist studying specimens. I learned to separate emotion from diagnosis, personal feelings from professional responsibility. The skills that made me a good doctor would serve me well in what was coming. Rebecca had made a big mistake. She assumed her wealth gave her immunity from accountability, that her social connections protected her from consequences. She was about to discover how wrong she was. I walked back to my study and sat in my reading chair, the same chair where I had prepared for countless patient cases, where I had written medical papers, where I had wrestled with questions of healing and helping for 3 decades. The wedding was exactly 1 month away. 30 days to let Rebecca's arrogance turn into overconfidence. 30 days for her to spread word of her ultimatum among those important guests she wanted to impress so badly. 30 days for her to forget that actions, even those aimed at humble hospital workers, sometimes had unexpected consequences. I picked up my newspaper and settled back into Saturday morning routine. But everything had changed. The woman reading about local news and sports wasn't just Daniel's mother hoping for the best with his fiancé. She was a doctor preparing to make a diagnosis. The weeks that followed moved with fake normalcy. April became May while the city settled into its familiar rhythm of sunshine and traffic. Another season in a place that treated weather like background music. Always pleasant, rarely memorable. I kept my hospital schedule with the same precision that defined 3 decades of work. Morning coffee at 6. Hospital arrival by 7:30. Afternoon rounds until 5. Colleagues noticed nothing unusual. No change from the thoughtful steadiness that had become my professional trademark. At home, I prepared for Daniel's wedding with the methodical care of someone organizing patient files. RSVPs to check. gift to buy, transportation to arrange. Every detail handled with medical thoroughness. Though underneath, different preparations were taking shape. Daniel called twice during those weeks, his voice bright with groom excitement as he described final suit fittings and venue decorations. He never mentioned Rebecca's phone call to me, which meant either he didn't know about it or he chose not to discuss it. Given her need to maintain her image as the generous future daughter-in-law, I suspected the first. The invitations had arrived in my mailbox during the third week of April. Heavy paper with gold writing. The kind of stationery that announced its expense through how it felt. Mr. and Mrs. James Chun request your presence. The Grand Plaza Hotel Ballroom. Reception at 6. Dinner at 7. Dancing until midnight. $150,000 turned into elegant script and expensive paper. I put the invitation on my refrigerator next to grocery lists and hospital schedules. A daily reminder of what was coming. Each morning I studied it while drinking my coffee, noting details that would matter when the time came. The timeline, the location, the formal dress code that made no mention of specific dress requirements or entry restrictions based on clothing budgets. My own preparations took different forms. I researched the Grand Plaza's layout, studied photos of its ballroom and nearby spaces, learned about the hotel's way of doing things. Information gathered with the same thoroughness I brought to reviewing patient charts, building a complete picture of the place where this would happen. The dress hung in my closet like evidence in a case. Material proof of the central issue that would determine the evening's outcome. I looked at it regularly, making sure it stayed in perfect condition, that no wrinkle or stain could give Rebecca additional ammunition. $80. The price tag was long gone, but the number stayed fixed in my memory. A symbol of everything Rebecca found wrong with my life. In her world, value connected directly to cost. Worth measured by price tags rather than character or achievement. 3 nights before the wedding, I sat in my study reviewing the guest list Daniel had shared weeks earlier. Tech entrepreneurs, business partners, old money families from both coasts. The kind of people Rebecca desperately wanted to impress. The audience she wanted to make sure never saw anything that might hurt her carefully built image. I wondered how many knew about her ultimatum to me. Had she shared it as a funny story? The tale of putting her future mother-in-law in her place? Did they approve of her methods? Or would they find her behavior distasteful if they knew the full truth? Soon those questions would have answers. The evening before the wedding, I followed my normal routine with unusual precision. Dinner at 6. Grilled chicken and vegetables. Nothing that might cause stomach problems the next day. Television news at 7. Watching reporters discuss local politics and national events with the same serious authority they brought to weather forecasts and traffic reports. At 9, I climbed the stairs to my bedroom and opened my closet door. The blue dress waited in its spot, pressed and ready, looking exactly as it had the day I bought it. $80 of Target quality that had somehow become the central battlefield in a war I didn't choose but fully intended to win. I laid out my clothes for morning. Blouse, shoes, the dress jacket and skirt. Everything arranged with the care of someone preparing for an important occasion. Which this certainly was, though not in the way Daniel imagined when he sent invitations. My alarm clock ticked toward 10 as I got into bed, surrounded by the familiar comfort of my simple bedroom. Outside, the city continued its restless energy. Millions of people enjoying their Saturday night entertainment in places ranging from small cafes to fancy restaurants. Tomorrow, the Grand Plaza would host another elegant wedding. Another celebration of love and commitment between two people promising to honor each other through whatever challenges life brought. Rebecca was about to discover that some challenges arrived wearing $80 dresses and carrying 25 years of medical wisdom about the relationship between actions and consequences. 6:45. My alarm didn't need to wake me. I'd been lying in bed since 5:30, watching morning light creep across the ceiling with the patience of someone who had waited 30 days for this moment. Wedding day. I got up without ceremony and walked to the bathroom, catching my reflection in the mirror above the sink. 60 years looked back at me, lines earned through decades of listening to patients, weighing symptoms, helping people heal. The face of a woman who understood that consequences delayed were not consequences forgotten. The shower ran hot while I prepared with careful precision, each step removing yesterday and preparing for what lay ahead. No nervousness shook my hands. This was simply another morning needing professional preparation, like countless others before important hospital procedures. Breakfast was toast and coffee eaten while standing at my kitchen counter. Through the window, Saturday morning unfolded in neighborhood peace. Neighbors walked dogs. Sprinklers watered lawns. Normal people starting normal weekends. In a few hours, the Grand Plaza would host an elegant celebration of love and commitment, attended by the city's social and financial elite. Rebecca expected me to be absent from that celebration. Her ultimatum had been clear: wear appropriate clothes or stay home. The arrogance of assumed obedience had kept her confident through the past month, sure that her threat had solved the problem of Daniel's embarrassing mother. Today she would discover her mistake. I climbed the stairs to my bedroom and opened the closet door. There, hanging exactly where it had waited for 30 days, was the dress in question. Blue cotton, classic style. $80 of Target quality that had somehow become the central battlefield in a war about respect, dignity, and the dangerous idea that wealth gave authority over others. I lifted the jacket from its hanger and held it to the light. The fabric stayed perfect. The fit still good after 2 years of nice occasions. By any reasonable standard, it was perfectly fine for wedding celebrations. But Rebecca didn't use reasonable standards. The blouse came first. Crisp white cotton properly ironed. Then the skirt settling into familiar comfort around my waist. The accessories followed. Each element of my outfit assembled with ritual importance. Armor for the confrontation that had been inevitable since that first insulting dinner conversation. Finally, the jacket. As I put my arms through the sleeves, I felt the change complete itself. Not from civilian to formal guest, but from hurt mother to diagnosing doctor. The dress didn't just cover me. It announced my intentions to anyone smart enough to recognize the symbolism. Before leaving, I stood before my bedroom mirror and did a final check. Everything was perfect. The dress fit beautifully. The colors matched each other well. The overall look was one of quiet dignity and appropriate formality. Anyone meeting me would see a well-dressed woman attending an important social occasion. They would be completely right, though perhaps not in the way they thought. I collected my keys and purse, checking that Daniel's invitation stayed safely in my jacket pocket. The heavy paper with its gold writing had become my admission ticket to what promised to be a memorable afternoon at one of the city's nicest venues. My car started on the first try, reliable as always. As I backed out of my driveway and headed toward the highway that would take me downtown, I felt the same calm focus that had helped me through 3 decades of important hospital moments. Justice delayed was not justice forgotten. Sometimes it was simply justice refined, made more precise through patience and careful planning. The drive to the Grand Plaza took 45 minutes through weekend traffic that moved surprisingly well. The city seemed eager to clear the path for what was coming. Like the place itself recognized the importance of letting all participants reach their spots on schedule. The Grand Plaza rose before me like a monument to elegance, its white walls gleaming in afternoon sunlight. Valet workers in spotless uniforms moved with practiced precision, directing luxury cars toward parking areas with the efficiency of orchestra conductors. I gave my simple car to a young man who handled it with the same professional courtesy he'd shown the Mercedes before me. Money talked, but good service spoke universally. Inside, the hotel's lobby spread in marble beauty. Crystal lights casting rainbow patterns across surfaces that reflected decades of hospitality to the wealthy and powerful. Wedding guests moved through the space in elegant groups. their voices carrying the particular sound of people used to being heard and listened to. The ballroom door stood open, showing glimpses of white flowers and golden light within. A string quartet played chamber music that provided sophisticated background to the murmur of arriving guests. Everything Rebecca had promised. Elegance. Exclusivity. The kind of social theater that impressed tech executives and business partners. And there, near the decorated arch, stood my son. Daniel's tuxedo made him look so handsome, so grown up. Thomas would have been so proud to see him looking so good on the day he dreamed about. For a moment, my careful calm threatened to break under the weight of Mother's pride and bittersweet memory. He turned, scanning the growing crowd, and his face brightened when he saw me. That smile, Thomas's smile, warm and welcoming and completely unaware of the drama about to happen, almost broke my resolve entirely. Mom, he moved toward me carefully, managing his formal clothes with practiced skill. You look wonderful. That dress is perfect. Perfect. The word carried layers of meaning he couldn't possibly understand. You look so handsome, sweetheart. Absolutely wonderful. Thank you for being here. I know this isn't really your thing. All these people and formality. But it means everything to me that Margaret. Rebecca's voice cut through our reunion like a blade through silk. She approached with the confident walk of someone on her own territory, surrounded by her own carefully chosen guests. The month since our phone conversation had done nothing to soften her edges. If anything, she seemed more polished, more certain of her authority. Her eyes immediately locked on my dress with laser intensity. The same blue cotton that had triggered her ultimatum. The same $80 Target purchase that had offended her so deeply. I watched recognition dawn in her face, followed quickly by something that might have been disbelief. I warned you about that dress, she said quietly, her voice pitched to avoid Daniel hearing. Rebecca, let's not ruin Daniel's day with unnecessary drama. Unnecessary? Her face flushed with the particular anger of someone whose authority had been challenged. I made my position crystal clear. We discussed this. You assured me you understood. Daniel looked between us with growing alarm. What's going on, Rebecca?
What are you talking about?
But Rebecca wasn't finished. Her voice rose slightly, drawing glances from nearby guests who turned to watch what appeared to be tension developing near the decorated arch. You didn't listen to me, Margaret. You chose to ignore my explicit instructions about appropriate clothing for this event. Her eyes swept over my appearance with open contempt. Now there will be consequences. The word hung in the air between us like a challenge thrown before witnesses. Around us, elegant conversations had quieted as more guests noticed the confrontation brewing at the center of their social gathering. Daniel stepped forward, his voice sharp with confusion and embarrassment. Rebecca, stop this right now. What are you Stay out of this, honey, Rebecca said. Her tone carried the dismissive edge of someone managing lesser beings. Your mother and I have an understanding that needs to be addressed. She looked around the ballroom with calculating eyes, clearly searching for something or someone who could help her enforce her will. Her gaze swept across the assembled guests. Tech executives, business partners, old money families from both coasts. Before settling on the discreet security personnel stationed near the rooms, the approaching figure wore the understated elegance of high-end private security. Expensive suit, discreet earpiece. The controlled posture of someone trained to handle delicate situations involving wealthy clients. As she drew closer, I could see the name tag identifying her as Maria Santos, head of security. Conversations throughout the ballroom had stopped entirely now. Tech executives and business partners turned to observe the drama unfolding near the arch, their faces showing the particular fascination of people witnessing social theater they hadn't expected to see. What seems to be the problem, ma'am? Maria's voice carried professional calm as she assessed the situation with trained eyes. This woman, Rebecca gestured at me with dismissive contempt, was specifically told not to attend this event wearing inappropriate clothing. She chose to ignore those instructions. I want her removed from the premises. Daniel's face had gone pale, his hands trembling as he processed what was happening. Rebecca, You can't be serious. This is my mother. Your mother should have listened when I explained the dress requirements, Rebecca said. Her voice had taken on the particular coldness of someone demonstrating power in front of an audience. I'm paying $150,000 for this wedding. I will not have it ruined by someone who refuses to meet basic social standards. Maria's professional gaze moved from Rebecca to me, conducting the kind of assessment that security personnel performed dozens of times daily. Her eyes took in my blue dress, my modest appearance, my calm behavior in the face of public humiliation. Then something shifted in her expression. I'm sorry, ma'am, Maria said to Rebecca, her tone remaining respectful but firm. I cannot remove this lady from the premises. Rebecca blinked, clearly expecting immediate compliance. What do you mean you can't? I'm the client here. This is my wedding. I understand that, ma'am, but this lady is a VIP guest. Hotel policy prohibits any action that might inconvenience someone of her standing. The word standing carried weight that seemed to confuse Rebecca entirely. She looked between Maria and me with growing bewilderment, as if the security chief had started speaking a foreign language. VIP guest? What are you talking about? Rebecca's voice rose in frustrated disbelief. Look at her. She's wearing an $80 dress. She works some helper job at a hospital. What possible standing could she have? Maria's expression shifted into something that might have been professional amusement. Ma'am, I'm not at liberty to discuss the specifics of our VIP guest arrangements, but I can assure you that Dr. Dash, she paused, looking at me with obvious recognition. Chun, I supplied quietly. Dr. Chun is absolutely welcome at any event held in this hotel, Maria continued. Her tone had taken on a subtle edge that suggested Rebecca was venturing into dangerous territory. In fact, I would recommend against any further complications regarding her presence. Rebecca's face had flushed deep red, her confidence beginning to crack under the unexpected resistance. This is ridiculous. I don't care what your policy is. I'm paying for this event, and the hotel appreciates your business, ma'am, but certain guests receive accommodations that supersede individual event arrangements, Maria said. Her stance had subtly shifted, her professional calm now carrying undertones of warning. I suggest we allow the ceremony to proceed as planned. The gathered crowd watched in fascination as Rebecca's authority crumbled in real time, her assumptions about power and influence meeting immovable resistance from someone who clearly knew things she didn't. Who is she? Rebecca demanded, her voice cracking with confusion and mounting panic. What aren't you telling me? Rebecca's face had turned a dangerous shade of red, veins standing out against her temples as she pointed her finger at Maria with escalating fury. This is completely unacceptable. I don't care about your hotel policies. I'm the paying customer here. Maria's stance shifted into something more alert, professional calm giving way to visible preparation. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to step outside and calm down. Step outside. Rebecca's voice cracked with disbelief. This is my wedding. I paid $150,000 for this venue. You work for me today. The security chief's expression hardened into something that suggested Rebecca had crossed an important line. Actually, ma'am, I work for the hotel, and hotel policy is very clear about guests who become disruptive to other patrons. Around us, the elegant wedding crowd had formed a loose circle, their conversations forgotten as they watched the drama unfold with the fascinated horror of people witnessing a social disaster in real time. Tech executives and business partners who had come to celebrate now found themselves front-row witnesses to their host's complete meltdown. You cannot remove me from my own wedding. Rebecca lunged toward Maria, her coordination compromised by rage and pre-ceremony champagne. I'll have your job for this. I'll sue this entire hotel chain. Maria moved with the fluid precision of someone trained in control techniques. In one smooth motion, she caught Rebecca's arm, turned it behind her back with professional efficiency, and began guiding her toward the ballroom's exit. Let go of me. This is assault. I'll have you arrested. Rebecca's voice rose to near hysteria as she struggled against Maria's grip. Do you have any idea who I am? What connections I have in this city? I know exactly who you are, ma'am, Maria said, her tone remaining professionally neutral even as she applied additional pressure to maintain control. You're someone who needs to leave this venue immediately. The crowd parted like water as Maria escorted her struggling captive toward the garden doors. Rebecca's expensive wedding dress had become disheveled, her carefully styled hair messed up, her face flushed with powerless rage. The transformation from confident bride to public spectacle had taken less than 5 minutes. This isn't over, Rebecca shouted as Maria pushed her through the doorway into the hotel's garden courtyard. I'll sue every one of you. The hotel, the security company, everyone. Daniel followed behind them, his formal clothes trailing across marble floors as he tried to process what was happening to his carefully planned celebration. The other guests streamed after them, drawn by the magnetic pull of unfolding drama. In the courtyard, surrounded by manicured landscaping and elegant fountain features, Rebecca's voice carried even louder than before. You have no idea what kind of legal trouble you're in. I'll own this place when my lawyers are finished. Maria maintained her professional grip while scanning the gathering crowd with alert eyes. Ma'am, if you continue making threats, I'll have to call the police. Call them. Call everyone. Rebecca's voice had reached a pitch that suggested complete loss of control. When they find out what you've done, assaulting a paying customer, violating my rights, you'll all be finished. The wedding guests formed a semicircle around the spectacle, their faces showing mixtures of embarrassment, fascination, and growing concern. This was no longer just a disrupted wedding. It had become something approaching a public breakdown. But Rebecca wasn't finished. Standing there in her disheveled wedding dress, held firmly by hotel security, she continued her tirade with the desperate energy of someone whose entire world was crumbling. I'll sue all of you, she screamed, spit flying from her lips. Every single person who thinks they can treat me this way. Starting with that woman. She gestured wildly toward where I stood, calmly watching, and her ridiculous $80 dress. Let's see you try suing the chief of cardiology at City General Hospital. The voice cut through Rebecca's ranting with surgical precision. Dr. Helen Park stepped forward from the crowd, her elegant gray hair catching sunlight as she moved with the confident stride of someone used to commanding operating rooms. Rebecca's mouth opened and closed soundlessly, her tirade stopping mid-sentence as if someone had pulled her power cord. Around us, the wedding guests fell into complete silence, processing what they had just heard. Chief of cardiology? Rebecca's voice came out as barely a whisper. Helen smiled with the particular satisfaction of someone delivering a perfectly timed revelation. Dr. Margaret Chen, Chief of Cardiology at City General Hospital, the highest cardiac surgeon in the state. She gestured toward me with obvious respect. I've had the honor of working alongside her for 20 years. The color drained from Rebecca's face as the size of her situation began to dawn. Her eyes darted between Helen and me, her brain apparently struggling to reconcile the modest woman in the $80 dress with a title she had just learned. Chief of Cardiology, she repeated, her voice cracking. But, she's the most respected heart surgeon in California, Helen finished smoothly. Known for her wisdom, her skill, and her absolute integrity. Someone whose reputation in medical circles is beyond question. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to Her Voice Unfolds, and share thoughts about this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.